pressure on myself to do that, not necessarily perfectly, but better than I feel like I'm doing it now.
So you're not a perfectionist, but you still have high standards.
Right.
Is that right?
You know, I did some thought on that when you were talking about the perfectionists in the room. And I don't think that I'm a perfectionist, but I do feel like, you know, every experience is a learning experience, and that I really should be getting better at some things, and I don't feel like I'm where I need to be and where I want to be.
So that's where the self-forgiveness is, really,
I think
in that area? Okay, well, we'll come back to that in a minute. So there are these experiences of people dying on you.
Right.
Unexpected, tragic, what kind of nature was it?
The first one was my youngest sister, Natalie.
Okay.
She was 30 years old. This was 6.5 years ago. And she had severe cerebral palsy. And a lot of people at the time of her death said, oh, wow, she really outlived the expectations for her. But I never felt like that was true. I always felt like she was going to be with us forever.
Yeah.
And she was an advocate and very independent and lived on her own despite her significant physical disability. But she got sick right after I got married. By the time I was home from my honeymoon, she was in the hospital, and 5 weeks later she had died. And that makes me sad.
Yeah. So she was how much older than you?
She was 3.5 years younger than me.
3.5 years younger. Okay.
I'm the oldest in the family. We have a middle sister, and then she was the youngest.
Okay. And she died how long ago?
6.5 years.
6.5 years ago.
Right. No, I just sometimes wonder if there's a tie-in. You know, as we discussed on Saturday, my oldest daughter, Bryn, is almost 4 now, and she is very, very much like me. And I was having to release some of the stressors.
Oh yeah, well, that's right. I've forgotten about your daughter.
Right,
Yeah.
she showed up as kind of a side note on self-forgiveness for me. So we decided to focus on her. I feel like I should have some better skills in that area.
She pushes your buttons.
She does.
Yeah.
And I think she does it on purpose. I know she does.
And what kind of things really does she, what are those buttons, do you know?
Well, I know that she has a lot of attention-seeking behaviors. And in some of the work I did on Saturday, I think sometimes some of the things she does embarrass me. And I think the reason that some of her behaviors embarrass me is because I feel like I should be able to control them, and that I should be able to shape her and teach her in a way that she doesn't have those behaviors. She spit on somebody.
So she's not...
on an adult. And I thought, oh, not my child. So just some things that embarrass me.
So she's not one to be controlled.
No.
What was your relationship like with Natalie?
It was good. We were pretty close.
Very close? Okay.
The very interesting thing is, though growing up, I never wanted her to live with me. A lot of siblings of individuals with disabilities want their brother and sister to live with them, and they want to be their caretaker forever.
Right.
And I needed that autonomy. I needed that separation from her. Yet...
So really it's just the loss here that's the big issue, is it? Is that the only thing that's really up for you right now?
Loss and self-forgiveness.
And the self-forgiveness. So let's deal with the loss first of all, because you know, as much as we use spirituality and you know what we know about spirituality and what life might mean or what death might mean, when it happens it hurts, right?
Right.
I mean, and we just have to feel the grief of that.
Right.
Even though we can say, you know, Natalie, she lived her purpose and she died when she needed to die, still hurts.
Right.
And you still miss her.
Right.
So that's the grief.
Right.
Not that she died, but that you miss her.
Right.
Isn't that true?
Right.
So, and part of that missing sometimes, because it hurts so much, we have a tendency to blame that person for going. There's an abandonment, a sense of being abandoned or left. You're still here, right? You're still having to deal with life. You're still having to deal with, you know, being a human being, and she's up there playing her harp and doing that.
Right, exactly.
Right. So, is there any sense? Do you feel any sense sometimes of just a little bit of a twinge of anger or something about, you left me. I'm here on my own now. You've gone. You're doing what you needed to do.
It's interesting. I was last week speaking about sibling issues, and it hit me that through some awkward teenage years, I tell a story about how when we went to the mall, a lot of kids don't want to have any association with their families or their brothers or sisters because of the embarrassing behaviors.
Yeah.
But Natalie was kind of my security. I could hold onto her wheelchair and I could push it.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe some of my identity was tied up with her.
Yeah.
I was the girl who had the sister with a disability whose family was really neat. And I think when we lost Natalie, maybe I lost a little piece of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have felt anger or resentment that she's gone, but I do think, once again, I feel kind of a void maybe in that area that has to do with who I am and who makes me who I am, because I think a lot of it was tied up with her.
Yeah. Good. Well, you were doing a good job with Natalie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's another missing.
Right.
Because she was your purpose for living in many ways, I would imagine, even though you did your independent life, right? Is that true?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
So I think there's a lot that's tied up there with her. So it probably wouldn't hurt at all, to do a little bit of forgiveness work about her leaving.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because there was a part of the child in you, really, you were in denial about her dying. Right?
I didn't think it was going to happen.
And she busted your denial
Right.
by dying. How dare you? How dare you die? Because it's my story that you were going to live forever with me, support me, and be my... Was she your rock?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, she was your rock,
That's
right?
the word I filled in my head when you said it.
Yeah, she was your rock.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a bad idea to do a forgiveness worksheet on her.
Okay.
I'll give you one, but you can take away with you. We won't do it here and now, but I'll just kind of run through it quickly with you. You remember when we did the Saturday workshop, I talked about those 5 stages that we go through: telling the story, feeling the feelings, collapsing the story. Well, the worksheet takes you through that, basically. So the number 1 box is, you left me, or my sister left me and I needed her. She was my rock. She gave me a purpose for living. And then when she died, I felt so sad. It was not how I had made it up. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Okay. So you might need to write a lot more than just this little space here.
Okay.
Okay. To really dig into that feeling of disappointment, I guess.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been, a disappointment that she did in fact die?
Right.
But it was almost like, oh God, she had to die of something like pneumonia.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You could have made it a little bit more dramatic.
Exactly. But it had been completely associated with her disability.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I mean,
Right.
just antibiotics, that would have cleared.
Exactly.
And
But,
then,
and then also maybe a little bit of fear of, okay, now that she's gone, who am I and where do I go?
Right. Yeah. Now that you've left me, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Right. Good. And so that's the second box, is where you actually talk to her directly. I'm upset with you, Natalie, because since you've left me, I don't know who I am anymore, and I feel abandoned. It wouldn't hurt to call it that. And then you put those feelings in there, and so you just basically work through the worksheet, answer the questions as they come up. The interpretations I made up about the above event. Well, I have no purpose for living, probably. Whatever what beliefs were around that, go through that. So this part is all about sort of getting more of an insight into how you're feeling and why you did what you did, and then it'll finally bring you to the reframe, where, and you've already done it because you've already told me that she died when she needed to die, and there is no death anyway. She's just transitioned into another vibration, blah, 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 right? So you've already got that stuff. I don't have to give you a tutorial on that, right?
Right.
But you can imagine with some people, I mean, that would be
Yeah.
amazing for them to say, what do you mean it was a perfect thing? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you do that, and just go through the worksheet, and then when you come back in next week, we'll discuss it and see how you felt, what feelings come up, and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
So let's do that on her. And then what about Julianne? Julianne or Julienne?
Julianne.
Julianne.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to do something on her? What was the feelings with her when she was born, stillborn?
I think, again, just a huge sadness and a huge loss. I mean, I waited for a long time. I don't have to tell you how old I was when I got married, but I got married later in life.
Yeah,
and
easily be. All right. Doesn't sound as though there's a whole lot of work to do around Julianne at this point, does there?
I don't
Doesn't
think
see
so.
any forgiveness to do around there.
Yeah.
So let's do the self-forgiveness now then. Let's look at that. And this is, I don't know, is there anything that you can really fasten on as a specific thing about you beating yourself up for, or is it more of a generalized?
I think a lot of it has to do with motherhood. I felt like before I had kids, I was a rock star. I was an award-winning teacher, and the entire community recognized my greatness.
Yeah,
I hate to
which
say
was
it that
important to
way,
you.
but that's important to me, right?
Yeah,
And I mock myself in that, but I think that's really how I felt. And so I laugh and say that I got my Mother of the Year trophy engraved a little too early. And so I think I beat myself up. I was a great teacher, and I don't feel like a great mom. Although
because of Bryn, or mostly because of her, or?
No, not necessarily.
No.
I mean, she and I have really been struggling a little bit. Not a whole lot, but it's been building.
Yeah.
Maybe in the last 6 months. But when we brought her home from the hospital and she cried. She has a heart condition. Now, she was born with a different heart condition than Julianne. Julianne's was structural and Bryn's is electrical. And but through Julianne, Bryn's was diagnosed because I was being monitored in a very different way. But I spent the first 3 months of Bryn's life not knowing the extent to which her heart condition was affecting her, and emotional reactions and a lot of crying could have sent her into cardiac arrest. And so I spent the first 3 months of her life in fear that maybe I was going to lose another baby due to another heart condition. And so I think that I have a real bond and a real protective instinct with her, maybe not instinct, but reaction with her. And I think that because I can't control her and I don't feel like I'm shaping her as well as I'd like to, that's really difficult for me. And now we know. I mean, we know from a medical standpoint and, across the board that she's safe. She's identified, she's treated, she's medicated, she's fine. In terms of...
No risk factor. No.
Right, very, very low. I mean, she still has the condition, but once treated, then it's fine. But I spent the first few months of her life really in fear that I was going to lose her. And I think it makes me want to protect her to a level that I can't. And so I think I have a hard time letting go. I always want her to do the perfect thing and be good and be happy and be responsible and be respectful and not spit on adults.
Okay. Well.
And I can't make that happen right now in her life.
So Mom's a good teacher. Bryn's a good teacher too.
Exactly.
If she's teaching you, you've got to back it up. You've got to just be okay with who you are.
And be okay with who she is.
Yeah, but she's teaching you though. She's the teacher here. You're trying to teach her.
Right.
But she isn't going to let you. Because all the time she's holding up this mirror saying, you can't teach me anything because you don't feel good about yourself. And until you start feeling good about yourself, I'm not going to let up.
Right.
That's what it looks like to me with this kid.
And that is some of my fear, is that she's seeing my
But what
frustration
a
with myself.
But what a gift for you,
Right.
you see. because it's making you face that.
Right.
And until you find the peace within yourself that you are a fabulous mother, right?
Right.
And you are.
I am. I mean, I can say that sometimes.
But at the moment, she's representing the part of you that doesn't accept that.
That's very insecure.
Yeah.
Very insecure.
She's showing you this mirror, saying, "Look how insecure you are about this motherhood deal
Right.
that you're in,
Right.
right? And I'm going to keep showing you until you get it that you don't have to be perfect.
Right.
You don't have to be perfect. Never mind about her,
Right.
right? It's not about her at all. It's about you.
Right.
I think. Does
I
this
do
feel
think.
right to you?
And you opened me up to that at the workshop.
Uh-huh.
Because I've known for a while that I need to do some work with her between the two of us.
Right.
And maybe it's not even between the two of us. Maybe, for both of our sakes, I need to do the work on me, right?
Right.
Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, you have to do the work on you.
Right.
It's not about her.
Right.
Of course, you have to still carry out your role as a mother.
Right.
But right now, it sounds like she's a project, right? She's a project, and you're going to do your best to shape her.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like she's unshapable, even at approaching 4 years old.
Right.
And I heard, who was it in the workshop said, "You wait." Oh, it was Kim.
Mm.
You wait until she's 13.
Right.
Right? Did you hear her
That's
say
right.
that? Almost under her breath.
Right.
And
Exactly.
she's dead right.
Right.
If you don't get the lesson, she's going to go and really hammer you
Right.
until you get it.
Right. I really feel like this is the time to address it
It is.
because it doesn't just naturally get better. I mean, obviously there's cycles where things are easier and things are
Right.
harder, and things have been harder recently.
Right.
But that I need to use that as a motivation
Right. Yep. So part of your work is to get beyond, to keep the work on Natalie, I think, to get some of this sadness moved out.
Right.
Because even though you're a very outgoing person, I wouldn't mind betting that you've pushed a lot of that stuff down, haven't you?
I'm sure.
So that needs to be taken out somehow, processed somehow.
Right.
And that's going to help your propensity to make yourself wrong if you don't do it pretty much 100%.
Right.
You're not a perfectionist in the way that I was talking about it on Saturday,
Right.
but you do have high standards for yourself,
Right.
and you have a high need for approval.
Yes.
Well, here's what I think we should do. I've got a self-forgiveness worksheet here too, so I think you could take one of those with you and just go through it with your issue with yourself and
Okay.
see what comes up.
Okay.
The same thing, what I'm blaming myself for and what I hear my judging self say is, and just go on through it and see what comes up that we may have to work on a little bit more.
Okay.
So there's that. But it wouldn't hurt too, I think, to do a worksheet on Bryn as well.
Okay.
So do the two things together in a way. You're forgiving her for who she is. I mean, she's a pain in the butt, right? I mean, she spits on adults. I mean, she's an embarrassment to me.
Right.
All those things you can say,
Right.
which she is. But at the same time, you know that she's doing this is to teach you to forgive yourself.
Right.
And that's the real purpose for her being in your life.
It's so hard to make kind of those general statements about her because, there's such isolated events, but they affect me in such a big way. I mean, I can tell you 1,000 wonderful, cute little things that she's done,
Yeah.
since she spit on the adult. But I think something that I think it was Kim told me in the workshop was if I'm having a hard time focusing directly on her cute little face and her sweet little innocent, just look at more her soul.
Yes.
This is her soul's purpose to take me through these exercises.
It's her purpose she's probably, if you can imagine her up there saying, "Look at that, Jennifer. I mean, look at the mess she's in. I
Right.
better go down and sort her out."
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
in she dives. And
That was a lot easier in some of the exercises that we did when I was focusing on her. Just
yeah,
not to see her as a sweet little innocent child, but
Right.
as a soul with a purpose.
yeah.
Right.
then she's living it out perfectly.
Yes.
So when she does do that and embarrass you, see if you can, on the one hand you're going to get irritated, on the other if you can just keep that awareness of that's her purpose,
Right.
and I can feel, she loves me enough to do this.
Right.
She loves me enough to do this.
But then I do feel an obligation on the other side to figure out what to do.
Of course, I mean, as a parent, you still have to do what you have to do as a parent, teach her right and wrong and so on. But you'll do it with a different vibration, though,
Yeah.
if you can,
Yeah.
if you can see beyond the child, the recalcitrant child, to the soul behind.
Okay.
If you can do the two things at the same time, first of all, she'll get it, of course,
Right.
because her soul will say, "Okay, she's getting it,"
Right.
and then instruct her
And
ego
then she'll
to
ease
calm
up on
down a
it?
little bit. Yeah.
Good.
So by the time she is 13,
Right.
there won't be that need to act it out even more, because you won't have crushed her.
Right.
Because that's what parents normally do with a kid like that. They crush them. And then at 13 or 14, boom, out it all comes. So is that okay? Do you think we've done enough today?
I think that's good.
I think so.
I think I have some work to do.
You have some work to do, and we'll get together again, and we'll make we'll make an appointment, and
Great.
we'll get together again, and we'll go through these worksheets and see where we are.
Thank you.
All right?
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.